2 wheels, yes? It's not a car that you drove in America. It's a chariot back in the day. Plus, it's metaphysical, okay? Even if I said 3, it's still right. There are 2 wheels. The first wheel is the more slow-moving wheel. It is the wheel that stabilizes, correct? You need a stabilizer in a car, in a home, in a basement, whatever it is. What is the Sanskrit word for that stabilizer? Sauraja. In English? Courage. Adding a reflective thought here. We all have responsibilities that are custom designed for us. My wife is supposed to be my wife. My kids are supposed to be my kids. If I get divorced from my wife, I'm supposed to get divorced from my wife. If I don't have kids, I'm not supposed to have kids. My point is, our context is custom designed. It is for you to learn, and you to learn, and you to learn. My wife is my wife, not yours. I'm her husband, etc. You're supposed to live in Seattle. Thank God I don't live in Seattle. Now, if it's custom designed, that means you can't. What do you have to renounce? You have to renounce complaining about it. Anyone who has a custom designed home, you designed it. What are you complaining about? It's like you make your lunch, open it up at work and complain about that lunch. You made it. You have to renounce complaining. So to feel your responsibilities are custom designed. I gave a sort of worldly example. When I was flying to Jacksonville in January, and there was a lot of complexities with flights because of the weather, so it took me a long time to get there. And the thought came to my mind is, why can't I just stay in Niagara Falls and teach virtually? But I remember this is my responsibility. My master put in the effort to teach me, so now I have to put in the effort to teach someone else. And immediately, I just found I had more energy. The complaining stopped. That negative self-talk ended. Now we have a fast-moving wheel. What is that in Sanskrit? Dhiraja. In English? Determination. So this one stabilizes, this one moves us forward. Determination. This would be like having an aspiration in life. I want to be a better parent, or I want to be healthier. We have a lot of external goals, correct? That's why I'm using the word aspiration. It's something much more personal and subjective. In America, how did they measure the health of the country? GDP. In Bhutan, how did they measure the health of a country? GDH, gross domestic happiness. So, gross domestic product is like an ambition. Gross domestic happiness is like a aspiration. It is about being more large-hearted and long-term. Okay? Everyone sees the difference between the stabilizer and the moving forward. And what was our renunciation? Complacency. A complacent person will not move forward. And just adding one more thought here is, the more relationships you have, the more conflict there's going to be. Agreed? I have found a key to not being weighed down by conflict is to keep moving forward. This happened, keep moving forward. Kids are really good at that, correct? But then we pound in that IQ and they become bad at it. But if we infuse EQ, they will keep being good at it. It happened, keep moving forward. The next facet of this chariot is the Dhwaja and Pataka. Our sort of Hindi speakers, what does Dhwaja mean? Flag. What does Pataka mean? Yeah, so you're used to Pataka like that. So Dhwaja is the main flag and Pataka is the minor flag. The major and the minor. There tends to be 2 flags. There's a big one and then there's a small one. Like in school, right? You major in something and minor in something. Okay. So Dhwaja is the big one and Pataka is the small one. Okay? The In Bhagwan Rama's chariot, the wheels are set. Now he's describing his dwaja and pataka. The dwaja in Sanskrit is satya. Satya. The pataka in Sanskrit or Avadi is Shila. Satya and Shila. Now I'm looking to you for the English definitions of these words, not in a scholarly way, because ChatGPT will do better than you, but in a personal way. What does Satya mean? Truth. I'm not happy with that answer. It's not wrong. I just said I don't think it's practical enough. Integrity. Faith, you said? Okay. Good. You're thinking.
Whatever you are inside, you are saying it out.
Yeah, what you're saying inside, there's transparency. So we'll go with integrity. Integrity. If you're thinking it, you say it. If you say it, you act on it. That's a more comprehensive truth. Otherwise, we just think of truth in terms of legal truth. I said it and you can prove it, or I didn't say it, and so on. Integrity. A way that we can cultivate integrity is by having an ideal. An ideal lifts up all of our personality layers so that they become cohesive. Okay? As an example, if I have an ideal to be disciplined, it's just what I want to be, my intellect is the most powerful part of my equipment, so what is it going to do? Lift up the mind to do that. What is my mind going to do? Lift up my body to the mind. Understood? So it's like a sequential system, but you need that most powerful equipment to lift the lower equipment. Without an ideal, it's very natural that, like in a hydraulic system, if you're not pushing up the water, what will it do? Fall. So an ideal, really think about this over lunch. Imagine you had an interview with Bhagwan Rama and he asked you, what is your ideal? And you know that you can't lie to him. He can see deep in your brain and heart. What would you respond with? Don't tell me. Imagine you're having this conversation with your original father in this case. What is your ideal? Many of the people who serve with me ask me that for the sake of their own reflection, and I tell them very simply, to make the inaccessible accessible. That's my ideal. For me, Sandipani in English made the inaccessible, which is this whole Sanatana Dharma, it made it accessible. But now many people can't go to Sandipani because they're married or they're older. So how do I take that same inaccessibility and make it accessible? That's why I have such an emphasis on virtual programs, social media. That ideal is very clear for me. So if we're dedicated to that, that means we have to renounce something. We have to sacrifice something. If you have an ideal, what do you have to renounce? Partying. Did you say partying? Yeah, I like it, partying. Yourself. Okay, I'm trying to make this super easy, so I'm trying to give you all words that start with C-O-M. So the first renunciation was? Complaining. The second one was? Complacency. What do you think the third will be? Renouncing? Complaining is done. Compliance? Okay, you're close. Compromising. To renounce compromising on that ideal. I remember Gaurang uncle saying, we all have PhDs. And we all felt so good, because I don't have a PhD. So we were waiting, tell us what we have a PhD in. Do you know what he said? Justification. We can all justify the decisions we make, the way we think. But the person who doesn't justify, they have made a promise, they don't compromise on that. The 8th section of Srimad Bhagavatam is one of the best. Its theme is Sat Dharma. We all sort of play around with dharma, but how do you intensify dharma to become Sad Dharma? And the third way to do this is pratignya. Pratignya purti means fulfilling your promise, following through. When Mahabali said he's going to give 3 steps, he gave 3 steps. Even though his guide, Rishi Shukra, said don't do it, but he said it and he followed through. That's integrity. There was no compromise. What did Mahabali get in return? Everything. He just had to give up 3 worldly things, and who became his security guard? Bhagwan Narayana. Who became his guide? Bhakta Prahlada. Mahabali, he hit the jackpot. He was like Drake. Drake bet $1.5 million that the Chiefs would win, and he got $1.5 million more. I don't know if you know that happened and so on. But he's Canadian, so I have a little bit of an affinity for him. And Drake, who knows why I'm talking about this. So it's not like he needs more money. So he announced on X that at my next show, which was on Monday, the Super Bowl was on Sunday, on Monday he's going to give that $2.3 million to someone who came to the concert. Well, that's he's like Mahabali to an extent. He just gave $2.3 million to someone who came to that show. The moral is go to more concerts. Okay, and locking in now. That was the Dwaja. Then the Pataka I said is Sheila. Tell me an English word for Sheila. Character is good. Humility is also good. Take one more guess. Good character. Nobility. And I don't have enough time right now, but I'm just going to tell you what should be given up. That way we have this fuller framework. In the last 12 hours, we have committed to renouncing complaining. Have you all followed through with that? No. So soon we're going to have cake. If you don't get a slice of cake, what are you going to not do? You're not going to complain. Now everyone's slowly moving on. Urgent and important. Quadrant 1. Then what is the second we're going to renounce? Complacency. Tomorrow you're going to be happier. We have an outdoor activity. You're going to go outside and you're going to try harder. Tomorrow we're going to play soccer. You're going to try harder. The third renunciation? Compromise. If you say you're going to do it, you're going to do it then. My parents taught my sisters and I that anything that goes onto our plate, we have to finish. And that's why I feel like my sisters and I are fairly good at not wasting food. And I always give this example that when I was growing up, we had Apple Jacks at home, the cereal Apple Jacks. And at that time, I had a high IQ, so I thought Apple Jacks with apple juice would be awesome. It wasn't. But I chose it, and I had to eat that entire bowl of Apple Jacks with apple juice, which is why I've never had Apple Jacks after that. That trauma has not left me. But it's a good lesson. I said I'm going to do it, so now I have to do it. The fourth renunciation, in reference to Sheila, is to not compare. Not compare. Sheila means nobility. A sign of someone who's living like this is they're more and more and more inclusive. An inclusive person doesn't compare, correct? So that's the fourth. Here's my wrap-up thought. Our community is really trying to practice inclusivity because Sanatana Dharma is not just for Hindus, not just for Indians, not just for males. It is for anyone who wants to feel their infinite nature. If you go outside on the right-hand side, there's a poster there for the Trevor Project. The Trevor Project is a resource for those who are trying to figure out their identity. And I was really happy to see that poster because our community has already given them $26,000. Because we're trying to serve not just our community, we're trying to serve society. That means people who are figuring out their identity. So that's Sheila, where you're starting to be more and more inclusive.